A crazy scientist took you into their basement and is planning to keep you there for a year. He's given you the option to choose one of 3 foods to eat for the year to stay alive. Which one do you choose to save your life? Pasta and bread, rice and beans, steak and broccoli. If you only ate pasta and bread, you'd get scurvy in just 8 months. And steak with broccoli is low in carbs, which will start breaking down your muscle mass to help you stay alive. Your best bet is rice and beans. It's high in all 9 essential amino acids your body needs, and you can germinate some of the raw beans, eating their sprouts to get your vitamin C. Aren't you a smart cookie? A year passes and you've managed to get out of the basement. But to make it out of the house, you must pick one of the 3 doors the scientists created. The first room is filled with venomous cone snails. The second has 5 very hungry polar bears. The third is a saltwater tank with hundreds of piranhas. Which is the safest? The third room. Piranhas are freshwater fish and can't survive in saltwater. 3 prisoners are sitting at the table having dinner, but one of them is wealthy. Can you guess who it is? It's not the guy with the steak and the shrimps. The little tag on his shirt reveals he's a chef, and he likes to prepare a special treat for himself. The guy with the jewels shows that he's rich, but in prison, jewelry is basically worthless. It's the third guy. Rich people try to keep low profile in prison not to be targeted by others. That's why he doesn't flash any valuable possessions or his status. A group of researchers is trying to test your knowledge. They take you into their lab on an island in Italy and present 3 dishes to you, but only one is safe to eat. Which do you choose? Cheese infested by maggots, boiled pufferfish liver, or fly agaric mushrooms? Pufferfish liver can be poisonous if it isn't prepared properly, and the fly agaric mushrooms are among the most dangerous in the world. Maggot cheese, on the other hand, is actually a delicacy in Sardinia, Italy, so it's perfectly safe to eat. Really? One day, you wake up in an arena without knowing how you got there. From the speakers, you hear that you must fight one of 3 hybrid animals. Which one do you pick to stay alive? A polar bear with the head of a rattlesnake, a hippo with a lion head, or a hybrid with the face and body of a great white shark and the limbs of a jaguar? The great white shark hybrid. Since its body has gills, it won't be able to breathe outside water. You're an astronaut and you've made it to Mars for an expedition. A team member greets you at the entrance to the base in their workout clothes. When you get in, you close the door and wait for the room to pressurize before taking off your spacesuit. When you walk in, you get a message that someone at the base is an imposter. Who could it be? A fellow astronaut who covers his face because he got a sunburn, an engineer with flaky patches on her skin, or the person who greeted you at the door earlier. The person you saw earlier. If they were human, they wouldn't survive outside the base in the planet's atmosphere. While walking in the forest, you come across a mysterious local that blocks your way. He tells you if you solve his riddle, you're free to go. But if you don't, you'll have to stay in this forest forever. The riddle goes like this. You're seas without water, coasts without land, towns without people, and mountains without land. What are you? Well, you're a map. You decided to go exploring a local cave. You walk inside, and a landslide suddenly blocks the way back. Ahead, there are 4 tunnels, each with a sign showing you which dangers lurk inside. Which one do you choose to stay safe? The tunnel filled with molten lava, the one filled with poisonous gas, the one swarmed by bats, or the tunnel with venomous spiders? You picked the last one. Spiders don't hunt humans for food and usually avoid them altogether. You just moved into a new town with only 2 barbers. You visit both their shops to decide which one you should pick. The first shop is a bit messy, and the barber needs both a haircut and his beard trimmed. The second shop is shiny, tidy, and the barber is well shaved with a perfect haircut. But you decide to go to the first shop. Why? Each barber cuts the other barber's hair, and you pick the one who gave the other a nice haircut. So, you're on a desert island and you're starving. You find a bush filled with berries. You eat a few, but start to feel sick. A local, "Hey, I thought this was uninhabited." They tell you that eating watermelons and grapes will get rid of the poison, but apples and carrots will make things worse. In front of you there are tomatoes, cabbages, oranges. Which one do you eat? Tomatoes! Like watermelons and grapes, they also grow on vines, unlike the rest. You're lost in the desert with just one bottle of water, but you don't know where the nearest water source is. What do? Cover yourself with your backpack to avoid sweating? Walk as quickly as you can to find water? Find shade and rest. The best option is the last one. When it gets dark, you can walk further and find help. While sightseeing in a town, a volcano erupts nearby. There's no lava coming out, just thick black smoke. You see 3 potential routes to safety. Which one do you take? A tall lighthouse is a few feet away, a basement, a car in front of you. Go to the basement and close the door behind you. Lava smoke travels fast, and it can reach the tallest point of the lighthouse. It's 3 p.m., and while walking in the middle of a desert, you come across a tall tower with a crazy scientist living there. He tells you that if you want to make it out alive, you must calculate the height of his tower. What do you use? Fallen tree branches? Your shadow? Your watch? Your shadow! Since you know how tall you are, you can calculate how many times your shadow fits into the tower shadow. You're at a water park, and you've been taken captive by a supervillain. He takes you to the highest point of the park and shows you 3 slides: an orange one, a green one, and a yellow one. One leads to a pool filled with acid, one to a tropical paradise, and the other to a volcano filled with lava. The supervillain tells you, in a parallel world, the purple slide leads to freedom. Which one do you choose? The yellow slide. Yellow is the opposite of purple. You're on a trip into the wild. A huge angry elephant has spotted you, and it's running towards you. What do? Run down a steep slope leading to a river. Climb up a tall tree right next to you. Run straight towards some other animals, hoping it'll lose sight of you. Run down the steep slope. Elephants avoid areas with high elevation to stop themselves being injured. During a camping trip, you realize you have no water. But you're very thirsty. There are 3 ways to get water. Which one is the least dangerous? Harvest some from a cactus. Drink the water from a stagnant lake. Take some water from a flowing river. Cactus water isn't the safest, and a stagnant lake is filled with bacteria and parasites. The least dangerous option is the flowing river. You've been stuck in the wild for days and you have no idea which way leads to civilization. Which sign do you follow? A plane passing overhead? A flowing river? A group of animals? Your best bet is the river. Since the beginning of time, people have built villages along riverbanks. A mysterious biologist invites you to his home for dinner. He takes you down to the basement and puts 3 plates of weird items on the table. One has wild white mushrooms with white gills. The second is filled with castor beans. The third has some fish brains. Which one is safe to eat? The plate of fish brains is the only dish that isn't poisonous. But the dinner isn't over yet. You're taken into a room with 3 large tanks filled with salt water. You must stay in one of them for 5 minutes. The biologist promises to set you free if you make it out alive. The first contains 6 great white sharks. The second has 70 piranhas. The last one is filled with dangerous box jellyfish. Which could you survive in? In the second tank, piranhas are freshwater fish. They can't survive in salt water. You're leading an expedition to the North Pole. As you're sailing there, a huge chunk of ice falls into the water, causing a large wave to come your way. What do you tell your crew to do? Stop the ship and stay until the wave passes? Start moving in the opposite direction. Keep going and lean into the wave as it hits. Leaning into the wave is the only way to get some balance. Anything else will cause your ship to capsize. A basketball mystery. I'll try not to dribble. Detective Taylor came to investigate a tricky case. Someone had pushed a famous basketball player down the stairs, and he ended up in a hospital right before an important game. The detective had 3 suspects. All of them were the player's teammates. Connor said he had been cleaning and checking the balls. Nathan explained he had had his lunch, several cheeseburgers and french fries. After that, he ran to the court to train. And Julian told the detective he had been getting a massage, his back hurt. Detective Taylor didn't need much time to figure out who the culprit was. Will you manage to do the same in 8 seconds? It was Nathan who pushed his teammate. Who eats such a big lunch before training? A mysterious car. Evan and Elias owned a small store in a quiet district. One day, they decided to stay late and discuss some business issues. At midnight, Evan called the police. When officers arrived, he was desperate. "I left Elias in the room and went to check which products we had to order. But when I came back 10 minutes later, he was lying on the floor. Someone had hit him on the head." Then the police officers asked Evan if he had seen anyone near the store. "I didn't, but I heard a car driving away. When I ran out of the store, it was already disappearing around the corner. It was foggy outside and the car didn't have its lights on. That's why I couldn't see the plate numbers, but I noticed that the car was dark blue." After this explanation, Evan was arrested for hitting his partner. Why? When it's foggy and dark, it's impossible to recognize the dark blue color. Stolen documents. Mark came to see his friend Thomas in his office. While walking along the corridor, he heard his friend shouting. He dashed inside and spotted Thomas standing near a girl who was on the floor. "It's my secretary, Linda. I just returned from my lunch break and saw her unconscious. Also, my safe was open and very important documents were missing." Another man, Thomas's deputy, entered the room. "Whoa, what's happened here? I've been away for 10 minutes at the most. I just went to buy coffee at the nearest cafe." Suddenly, the girl opened her eyes. "Ah, I had such a scare. I was working with documents when somebody grabbed me from behind, and then darkness. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't shown up, boss." Mark told Thomas to call the police immediately. Why? If the secretary was unconscious, how did she know it was Thomas who saved her? A lost puppy. Claire had been dreaming about having a dog for ages, and last week she finally got herself a cute puppy. But when she returned home one evening, her puppy was gone. The only thing left behind was a strange note. "If you want to see your pet again, leave $5,000 near the flower bed in your garden." Claire immediately called her friend Asher, who was a fan of detective riddles. Together, they went to question the neighbors. When Mr. Jones opened the door, he looked worn out. After Claire and Asher asked him about the puppy, he only sighed. "My wife has just given birth to our first baby. We already have enough stress in our life." Mrs. Anderson got angry after she heard the question. "I would never take someone's pet. I have 3 cats and 2 dogs of my own. They're my family." Mr. Miller also didn't like the question. "I'm allergic to animals. Why would I want to come near one?" And he sneezed loudly. When the friends returned home, Asher told Claire who had taken her pooch. "Can you figure it out?" It was Mr. Miller. He was sneezing and his eyes were a bit red. These are common signs of an allergy. It means Claire's puppy was nearby. A wrecked car. Mr. Davis called the police. He was extremely upset. Someone had taken his car for a joyride, crashed it into a tree, and ran away. The man suspected one of the teenagers living in the neighborhood. The police questioned 3 young people. Maya said she had a part-time job in a coffee shop, and when the accident happened, she was at work. Adrian told the police his parents had punished him. His dad told him to clean the fireplace, and that's what he was doing when the crash occurred. And Ian claimed he had been hanging out with a friend at his place. They had been binge-watching the latest series. After listening to all the suspects, the police officers arrested one of them. You have 8 seconds to figure it out who it was. It was Adrian. His house doesn't have a chimney. It means there's no fireplace inside, and he couldn't be cleaning it. Which husband? Naomi's husband, Hunter, was an explorer. Well, that makes sense. He went on an expedition to Antarctica and never came back. Naomi felt something bad had happened. She gathered several friends and traveled to Antarctica to look for her husband. When the group arrived at Hunter's camp, they found it deserted. Naomi suggested separating and searching the area. The woman herself headed to the south. She had been walking for an hour or so when the snow under her feet gave way. Naomi dropped several feet down. When she came to her senses, the woman found herself in a huge hall that looked like a lab. She turned around and screamed. Right in front of her, there were 2 large blocks of ice, and inside each of them, there was her husband. The 2 men looked identical. How could the woman tell them apart? Naomi knew she was pressed for time. She had to decide, and fast. Several seconds later, she knew which man was her husband. Can you figure it out too? The man on the left has only 4 fingers on each hand, and the man on the right doesn't have any problems with fingers. Plus, he's wearing a necklace with the letter N on it. Good for you, Naomi, but he's still in a block of ice. A geography teacher vanished on the first day of school. When the police arrived, they suspected 4 people who claimed to have alibis. The landscaper was mowing the front lawn. The English teacher was giving students a surprise test. The principal was preparing for his welcoming speech. And the coach was meeting new students who wanted to join the football team. Who was lying? The English teacher, of course! Students don't get surprise tests on the first day. Well, maybe not at this school. A crazy scientist took 10 people into his lab to check their intelligence. He gave everyone 2 pills and a glass of water. He told them, one pill is a placebo and the other is poison. Whichever you take, I'll take. But somehow everyone ended up unconscious after the trial except for the scientist. How did he do it? Both pills were placebo. The poison was in the water. Shane and Mia went to Japan for their honeymoon. Only Shane came back, and Mia's family called the best detective in town. What should be the detective's first move? Inspect Shane's suitcase. Inspect Shane's house. Call the travel agency Shane and Mia used. Call the agency to see how many return tickets Shane had booked. He's a suspect, and he shouldn't know the police are investigating him to avoid losing the evidence. Someone knocked on Amy's hotel room door. When she opened it, she saw a mysterious man. He apologized and said he'd mistaken Amy's room for his. When he left, Amy called the police. Why? Nobody knocks on the door of their own room. This is a technique used by people who want to break into someone's home. A worker was found unconscious near the entrance of an abandoned building. He has no memory of what happened, but seems to have fallen from the building. Detective Marks is assigned to this case, and he must figure out whether the worker fell or was pushed. He goes to the first floor, opens the window, and throws out a small rock. He does the same on the second floor and all the way to the top. When the detective comes back down, he's sure the worker was pushed. How does he know? He had to open windows on all floors to throw out rocks. This was an abandoned building, and someone closed the window right after pushing the worker. James ordered a coffee from his local bakery, put in some sugar, but then noticed a fly in his cup. He told the staff member, and they took back the coffee and brought him a new one. But when he got a sip, he got angry. Why? His new coffee was already sweetened. The staff member only removed the fly. Tom was walking in a snowy park at 10 p.m. when he got attacked from behind. He didn't see who knocked him out, and he immediately went to the police. The detectives questioned 4 suspects. Adam said he was at a suit fitting for his dinner later. Daniel said he was hosting a party at his place. Susan said she was working out before going to work. And Luke said he went to the park to get some cool photos of flying birds. One of them is lying. Who? It's Luke. It's next to impossible to see birds at night in winter. Right before the final soccer match, the team's goalkeeper went missing. The police arrived and they had 3 suspects from the rival team. Mike said he was signing autographs for his friends. Jake said he had broken his ankle and he was getting a massage. John was training at the gym before the match. The police immediately knew who did it. It was Jake. You don't get a massage when you break your ankle. A doctor walked into an unconscious patient's ward. There, he saw a nurse buttoning up her shirt. As soon as she noticed him, she exclaimed, "It's not what you think." The nurse isn't lying, but why was her shirt unbuttoned in the first place? She got locked out of the changing room and knew that the patient was unconscious, so she went to his ward to change into her uniform. Yeah, I believe her. A group of 6 friends decided to check out an abandoned house in their neighborhood. When they arrived, Mark, one of the group, warned his friends not to go in. But all of them ignored him and walked in anyway. Mark stayed outside, but his friends never came out. What did he see that stopped him from going into the house? There were footprints going in, but none coming out. The strict professor. A student put his final exam paper into the pile of the other students' papers. The professor told him, "I saw you were cheating at the exam. You'll get an automatic fail." Then the student asked him, "Do you know who I am?" The professor answered, "I neither know nor care who you are. You have to be punished for your dishonesty." The student walked away. When the exam scores were announced, he discovered he'd gotten an A. How come? The professor indeed didn't know who the student was. That's why he graded his paper just like anyone else's. The chef's out. The owner of the restaurant, Vegan Paradise, called the police. He was in a panic. "Someone has attacked our chef. He was taken to a hospital several minutes ago. Our rivals must have sent someone to ruin my business." When the police officers came to the restaurant, they learned that 3 people had been in the staff area during the accident. The first cook was cutting onions when the chef was hurt. He told the police his vision had been blurred because of the tears, and he hadn't seen anything. The second cook was peeling shrimps when the accident happened. He said he had been listening to music through his earphones, and he hadn't heard anything. The third person, a waitress, claimed she had been serving lemonade outside. Who's lying? The second cook attacked the chef. Come on, shrimps in a vegan restaurant? Really? Wolf paradox. 3 wolves were walking in the snow in a line. One of them says, "There are no wolves in front of me." Another says, "There's 1 wolf in front of me and 1 behind." The third wolf says, "There are 2 wolves in front of me and 1 behind." In which case is it possible? It's possible only if the third wolf's lying. Puppy mystery. Emily had a puppy she loved to the moon and back, but those around her couldn't stand the adorable pooch. Emily's husband hated how much time his wife spent with the dog. Her friend Deborah didn't like that every time she visited Emily, she had fur on her clothes. And the family maid just wasn't a fan of animals. One day, Emily came home and didn't find her puppy. The woman was furious. Her husband told her he had just come back from work and knew nothing about the dog. Her friend got offended. "I left my scarf here last evening. I've come to pick it up." The maid claimed she hadn't even come close to the pup because of her allergy. Who knows where the pooch is? There's pet hair all over the floor. Why doesn't the maid have an allergy to it? She's lying. Truth or not? Eric, a police detective, was having lunch in a cafe. At some moment, he went to the bathroom and left his smartphone on the table. When he came back, the phone was gone. The detective saw a man leaving the place and ran after him. Eric stopped him when the man was about to sit in a car. The detective told the man to give him his gadget back, but the man seemed confused. "I know nothing about your phone. I just gave my friends a lift to work." And he pointed at 2 men entering an office building. After hearing this, Eric immediately called the police. Why? The man lied. His car was a sports convertible with just 2 seats. The car wouldn't have fit 3 men. Who went out? In the middle of the night, Dennis was woken up by a loud crash. One of the kids must have been out. But they know they aren't allowed to leave after curfew. The man went to check on the children. All 3 of them, Catherine, Ruth, and Larry, seemed to be sleeping peacefully. Look at the kids and try to figure out who sneaked out of the house. It was Ruth. There's a dirty sneaker hidden behind the curtain and several pieces of French fries under her bed. Theft on a train. Brenda was traveling by train. It was scorching hot in the carriage. The girl took off her gold bracelet decorated with diamonds and put it on the table in front of her. Several minutes later, the train entered a tunnel and it got pitch dark. When the tunnel was left behind, there was no bracelet on the table. Boy, I'm surprised. Brenda was shocked. Someone's taken my bracelet. There were just 3 other people in the compartment. Helen said she'd been sleeping. Rachel was reading a book on her phone. And Gregory had gone to the bathroom even before the train entered the tunnel. Who took the bracelet? It was Helen. At first, she had her sleeves rolled up, but now they covered her arms down to the wrists, hiding the bracelet. Underwater fire. A sailor got a letter from his girlfriend. In this message, she told him she'd cheated on him. The man was so furious he managed to burn the letter under the water. After doing it, he got arrested. How was it all possible? The man was a sailor on a submarine. Paige and Riley are going on a date, but they tell their parents they're practicing instead. Paige plays tennis and Riley plays soccer. Who's the worst conspirator? Riley. She's dressed inappropriately for a soccer game. Unlike Paige, she doesn't have any change of clothes or equipment with her. Quinn and Sandra are working in a garden. Quinn was told to water the flowers, and Sandra should mow the lawn. Who's doing something wrong? Quinn. She was told to water the flowers, but she's watering the trees. Everly and Jasmine drove to a mall. Everly left her belongings in the car, and Jasmine locked her dog there while she's shopping. Who's being more stupid? Jasmine. You shouldn't leave animals or people in a closed car, especially in the hot sun. It's the wrong way to get a hot dog. Mia and Stella wanted to get a tattoo and skip their classes to get home right after school. When they get home, they immediately run into their parents. Who's going to get in trouble? Stella. Her tattoo is right on her wrist, and there's no way her parents won't notice it immediately. Hannah's best friend is teaching her ice skating, and Lily is learning to ride a bike with her older brother. After several minutes, they feel like they've got it and ride away from their supervisors very fast. Who's least careful? Lily. Hannah has the railing by her side that she can grab in case she falls. Lily will crash to the ground. Kylie and Abby are bloggers getting ready for a party. Who is missing something? Kylie. She's charging her cell phone, but the cord is unplugged. Melanie and Delilah are walking home from work late in the night. Which of the two isn't being careful? Melanie. Although she's walking in a less creepy place, there are no people around. If something happens, no one will be around to help her. Sophia and Brooke went camping in the forest. Suddenly, they notice a moose moving towards them. Who is in greater danger? Sophia, who is wearing heels and will run slower. Brooke can drop her huge backpack and use it as an obstacle. Kira and Ava want to go to a party, but their parents banned them from leaving the house. Kira decided to sneak out using the attic window, while Ava used the back door. Who won't make it to the party tonight? Ava. Kira is quite risky, but Ava's dad is reading a newspaper in the backyard. Maya and Chloe went for a walk. Maya went to a forest and stopped to take selfies with a friendly squirrel she met. Chloe went hiking and decided to take a selfie on the cliff. Who is in danger? Maya. The branch above her is about to fall. Maeve and Sarah are cheating on their math test. Who is more likely to be caught? Sarah. Although she's sitting in the back, the teacher's looking right at her. Bella and Ashley came home from a party, which they told their parents would be a study date. Who's going to be grounded till the end of the month? Bella. She'll have a hard time coming up with a logical explanation for the confetti in her hair. Elizabeth and Kate are late for work, so they're driving above the speed limit. Which of them is in greater danger? Kate. She has many objects lying scattered in her car. In case of an accident, they may hit her. Ariana and Serena have to do their house chores before they'll be allowed to go to the birthday party. Who is going to be late? Ariana. The iron isn't plugged in. Since she's distracted with the TV, it might take her a while to notice. Jessica and Margot are jaywalking. Jessica is listening to music and Margot is texting her friend. Who is in greater danger? Jessica. Although they're both behaving poorly, Margot is on a straight road where she can be noticed. Jessica is jaywalking before the road takes a turn. Someone might not have enough time to react and stop. Once, Adam agreed to take part in a popular TV show. He had to crack logic puzzles and solve detective riddles to get $1 million. If only he knew at that moment where this decision would lead him. When the guy arrived at the venue, a staff member put a blindfold over his eyes. After that, Adam was taken someplace and left alone. After waiting in silence for a couple of minutes, the guy pulls the blindfold off. He's in a rather large room. There's nothing there except 4 doors. The guy feels something's wrong, but he can't grasp what exactly. And suddenly, he realizes the ceiling is going down. He needs to get out of the room and fast. He examines the doors more closely. Aha! They all have notes that describe what's behind each of them. The first one, a lake full of piranhas. The second, a room where an avalanche will happen once he sets foot inside. The third, high-voltage wires hanging above a wet floor. The fourth is a 15th floor room with only one window. Adam knows he needs to decide fast. He opens one door and jumps inside a moment before the ceiling crashes down. Luckily, it's a safe room. Which one is it? The guy picked room number 3. The wires don't touch the water on the floor, and there's some space left between them and the ground. It means it's safe to crawl under the wires. Adam makes it to the next room and finds a note with a task on it. A coin is put into an empty bottle, which is then plugged with a cork. How can you remove the coin without breaking the bottle or pulling the cork out? Adam doesn't need much time to get the coin out. What does he do? Adam pushes the cork into the bottle and shakes the coin out. His next task is to figure out who a criminal is. An elderly lady was walking in the park when a stranger grabbed her bag and hurried away. The woman told the police the man was wearing a coat, a hat, and a pair of glasses. He also had a mustache. The police officers ran in the direction the lady showed them. A bit further, they found the hat, coat, and glasses lying on the ground. They figured out the criminal could hide in the nearby cafe. Adam has a photo of 4 men, all of them cafe visitors. He needs to understand who took the bag from the elderly woman. He immediately points at one man, and his answer is correct. Which man is it? It can't be the man in a hat or the one wearing a coat. The criminal also got rid of his glasses. It means the man wanted by the police is the one on the right. He has a small wound on his upper lip, must have got rid of his fake mustache in a hurry. The riddle is solved and Adam can go further. Soon he finds out he has to act as a detective again. A famous artist nearly finished his new painting, but he had to leave for France. It was an urgent matter, and it kept the man in Paris for a week. When he returned, he discovered his work had been spoiled. Someone had spilled black paint all over it. And it happened recently because the paint was still fresh. The artist was furious. He invited his maid, gardener, and maintenance worker and questioned them. He said, "Someone spoiled my painting while I was away. Do you know anything about it?" "I never enter your studio without your permission," the maid said. The maintenance worker added, "We don't use black paint for any repairs in the house. I don't know who could do that." Gardener got angry. "I've been working for you for 15 years. Do you think I could do this to you?" All of them sounded sincere, but then who spoiled the painting? Being a smart guy, Adam realizes right away the one to blame is the maintenance worker. The artist never mentioned the way the painting was spoiled. Since the answer is correct, Adam can continue. He enters a narrow hall. There, on a small table, there's a glass of orange juice. It seems to be half full, but Adam has to figure out if it's really so. How can he do it without using any measuring tools or pouring any juice out of the glass? Adam tilts the glass until the juice is just touching the rim. The bottom of the glass isn't visible, so the guy concludes the glass is more than half full. If a part of the bottom was visible, it would mean the glass was less than half full. The next riddle Adam has to crack goes like this. A man is thinking about how fast his life is flying by. The day before yesterday, I was 34, and the next year, I'll be 37. The man hasn't made any mistakes in his calculations. Can you guess what day his birthday is? Adam spends 20 minutes trying to figure this puzzle out and succeeds. What is his answer? The man's birthday is on December 31st. He's thinking about it on January 1st. The day before his birthday, he was 34. The next day, he turned 35. A new year started the next day, and that year he's going to turn 36. And he will be 37 the following year.